Hi, and welcome back to 5 Questions Over Coffee. I have in front of me my coffee mug. I know Maria, our guest today, has her coffee in front of her as well. So, welcome to Maria Dolores. Maria is a global speaker. She is the founder of the Human Contract Foundation, and we're going to get into what the Human Contract Foundation is. She's the author of the Human Constitution, which I think is a really interesting and great document, and there will be links to that in the show notes so that you can access that and read it. And she was ambassador for world peace. She was honored with that in 2023, and also only last year was given an honorary doctorate in humane letters, which I think is a brilliant achievement. So Maria, thank you for spending a few minutes with us and making some time in what I think must be a very, very busy life for you to come and spend a few minutes talking to us here at 5 Questions Over Coffee.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. I'm so happy to be here with you in the audience and to share about the human contract, the human constitution, and our rights and responsibilities. Thank you.
And we're really looking forward to hearing it. So tell me a little bit about, and we'll get into a little bit about the history behind it. But who is it that you think? I mean, we're all human beings. We have rights. But who is it you're trying to reach most at the moment with this contract, with the foundation that you're working with?
Yeah. So I help leaders to remember people's rights and responsibilities and to lessen hate, disrespect, and to increase dignity and maturity. And I do this with the Human Constitution. The Human Constitution is 7 principles regarding to take a stand for our right, our birthrights, and that we all need to mature with these birthrights.
And tell us a little bit about those 7, if you like, to really get us into understanding how they fit.
Yes. Okay. So the 7 principles is based and derived from United Nations Declaration of the Universal Human Rights. But with rights, we should have responsibilities. Don't you think, Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So these 7 principles, the first 3 is personal: body, emotion, and thought. That you are born with a right to your body. You're born with a right to the range of all your emotions and your thoughts. But we also have a responsibility to care for our body, our physical and mental health. So the first 3 principles is addressing our fundamental human needs as a species and individually. And then the coming 3 is about power, communication, and life. That you have the right to your power, your personal power. And we also have a responsibility in how we act and interact with each other. And the 5th principle is about our communication, our freedom of speech and freedom of creativity, but also responsibility in what we say and what we create, and to express and trying to express with dignity and trying to listen to each other. And so that's the 5th principle. And the 6th out of the 7 is our life, that you have the right to your life and you have a responsibility to respect others' way of life and other life forms, but never at the cost of any other. So, and I think we have a lot to do and a lot to mature here. And respecting, and so it also ties not only to United Nations Declaration of the Universal Human Rights, but it's also the 17 global goals. And then the last principle, the 7th principle, is about our collective rights and responsibilities. In Swedish, we call this civilkurage, which is moral courage, and to increase civil participation and to increase how we need, and we really need to collaborate more as a species. So that's the Human Constitution.
So can I just I know the first 3 I can see how we get to sort of 6 and 7, how business owners, business leaders will see
Yeah.
exactly uh, how they apply to their business. But the first three, how do you help business owners, business leaders, people who are in charge of large organizations to understand the first three? Because within a workspace, often we forget we have a responsibility. We forget ourselves. We work for a corporation. How do we
Yeah.
how do we manage that situation? How do you think we should?
Yeah, so Stuart, my background is with human resources and leadership. So I worked with 25 years and more with human resources and leadership. So I worked with everything from, attracting strategies and recruiting and developing individual, group, organization, and offboarding roles, offboarding groups and organization. And it's really addressing our physical, mental health. It's when we get recruited and onboarded and to care for the individual and both the individual and the team and to develop our physical health understanding. So I was working in the Swedish steel industry and forest industry where we have people working in different schedules, different times. I for what do you call that? We call it shift. They're working in
Yeah,
different.
shift. Yes, shift is a good, yeah.
Okay. So and that's also with the understanding of uh to have to really care about ourselves and as leaders, it's really the fundamentals of how to have a well functioning leadership but also a good functioning team is to truly care about the physical mental health. Burnout is because we don't acknowledge the early symptoms of burnout and not
No.
listen to ourselves. So it's really, really fundamental, both for the leader and for the coworker. And
Yes.
we also to have now the human constitution is not about I'm not telling anyone anything. I'm just simply taking a stand for our rights and our responsibilities. And this is not religious, it's not party political, it's not even an ideology, but simply to take a stand for our rights and responsibilities. How you want to do that is up to you. Some, like for instance, so some people are smoking, right? And we know that's not really good for our health, but it's to leave the choice for the individual
Mm,
and
mm.
that we all have both rights and responsibility for ourselves and one another. So it's the choices that we make and to be more curious about our own emotions and our thoughts and to broaden perspectives and to be more curious and to mature with that.
And the maturity is such an important thing. And I know that just before we came on air, we discovered that today is your birthday. So very happy birthday, Maria, for
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
you you talked a
I,
little bit about the fact that maturing is an important part of living.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure also, Stuart, we have met the humans that are like 5 years old and who are very mature and very wise. And then we meet people who have lived most of their lives and who are very, judgmental and locked in a narrow mindset and, uh,
Yes.
you know, immature, immature, really. So the human constitution is to encourage all humans, all 8 billion of us, to strive for maturity with more physical mental health, to lessen the drama, to increase and to broaden perspectives, to be more curious about ourselves and one another, and to mature in our relationships, as well as we all need to mature as a species.
And that's a really interesting point because we often almost I wouldn't say throw away, but experience is not valued as much as it was, particularly in the Western world. Experience is often uh, is often scorned in some respects, and yet it is an extremely valuable contribution. I mean, you look in the world of nature. There are very few animals that keep grandparents around in order to help raise young people. Elephants is a great example. Human beings another. That's because of the huge experience those elders have and can bring and contribute. And we often don't see that as a benefit.
Yeah. And what I also find, Stuart, is that we're in a very privileged time in our human history right now. If we look back through our human history, here, there, the 300,000 year human history, and we have always had technology supporting and driving us to the next level and the next level. And 300,000 years ago, we lived in groups of 150 people, and then we grew in groups, becoming agricultural, and having groups of 1,000, and then empires, and then various forms of the democracies. And right now, we still have representation of people living indigenous communities and nomads in groups of 150, and we have small communities with the agriculture, living close to nature, various forms of empires, and various forms of democracies. So I think it's really essential, and the change that we are in right now, obviously, like you, the audience, and you, Stuart, that we are scattered all across the planet, and we have this beautiful technology supporting us and connecting us. So it's so we're standing very much in a nation-centric thinking, and
Yes.
going to a global local world, and the shift going from this nation-centric thinking to the global local world. And that shift is about embracing our history, embracing the potential of and the beauty of each cultural, the beauty of each region, the beauty of the Americanness, the beauty of the Britishness, the beauty of the Swedishness, and to embrace and to see that gemstone and that potential, and for all of us to be proud, more proud and more mature of who we are, but also more curious about each other.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thought, Maria, because when the internet was first dreamt up, the concept of a global village was very prominent in those first internet pioneers. And we've lost a lot of that thinking because social media now tends to drive us into tribes. And you meet with only the people that you want to hear the same voices from, and hearing different voices from around the world, and recognizing and understanding different voices, I think is a key element of being a human being. And I would encourage any teacher, any parent, to teach your children not to just follow the crowd, but to think about what they're hearing and take from it the good and discard the bad, because I think so often we fail to do that ourselves, don't we?
Yeah. And also with discarding the what you say bad, for me that's also the lessons that we need to learn, because usually whenever there's friction whenever there is discomfort, there is also learning and a lesson in that.
Mm.
So
Mm.
the discomfort may be driven from an old belief, something we need to question, or all the fear, anger, frustration, all the emotions that we carry, and more the dense emotion. There are
Yeah.
lessons learned, and sometimes the lesson is to step away from a toxic situation, a toxic relationship, or a toxic workplace even, and to have and to increase our healthy boundaries, to have a healthy ego, to care for ourselves and our life,
Yes.
but also to care in our relationships. So I
And
see I see this as very important lessons to learn.
I think that's lovely, and I think it also reminds us of those later principles that we also have responsibilities for the planet, don't we? We have responsibilities for those around us. It's not just ourselves, but we have to look after uh, the people around us, because otherwise, how can we continue to look after ourselves if the planet is? If we don't look after the planet, if we don't look around our neighbours and look after them, we have no way of being able to actually ensure that we are looking after ourselves, do we?
Yeah, yeah. And
That's
that's why I think the human constitution is, as you understand, it's not anything like top down. It's not a
mm,
decree. It's not a policy. It's simply an offering, and it's um, to be curious about ourselves, who we are,
yeah,
what is my right, and what is my responsibility.
yes.
How can I mature in this situation? Uh, how can I care better for myself? How can I show better care in my relationships and in this preconditions that I have? And how can we better collaborate? To bring up a heavy topic, we have 45 million slaves in the world today. 45 million slaves. We have never had as many slaves in the world through our human history, yet we have never had as few in percentage. So I think the change needs to be both from within and in the community, because if we have 45 million slaves, then we have about 500 million people working and trading around this. So the change needs to come from within, and within the community, and the pressure and the support from all of us saying, we're not accepting this anymore, this is not okay. And
That's a
that's the sixth and the seventh principle, reminding us about who we are and who we can be.
I was going to ask you as my third question. I know we've been talking for a
Yeah.
while over one or two, but my third question is there one? And I would just at this point invite any of the people who are either watching or listening on the recording. If you have questions that you want to pose to Maria, we will have available show notes that will enable you to sort of follow and understand where Maria posts a lot of her talks and where she works. So please reach out, ask Maria questions. Is there one thing, is there one tip that you would like to sort of get? If somebody wants to remember nothing else from what you've said, what is the one thing you want them to take away today?
Mm. I want to say that your ideas matter, and your
Yes.
ideas can change the world. Your change within can change the world, and to listen to what would be my rights here and what would be my responsibilities.
Maria, my fourth question is around how you got to this place where you are at the moment. This is not something that you just sort of sit one evening and sort of realize that you need to document these seven principles. This is the work of somebody who's thought deeply and come to the realization. So how did you come to understand these 7 principles? What was the journey? And please don't feel you need to go into every detail, but give us a flavor of exactly how you came to where you are today.
Yeah. So it's true. I have been working on this for decades. 10 years ago, I published my book, State of Grace, Human Rights and Human Obligations. So that was when I first published and started to talk about our rights and responsibilities. Obviously, no thoughts come just out of nothing. Everything is building on everything, I would say. And so, in conversations with my friends, but also being a woman born and raised in Sweden, studying psychology, my major in sociology, philosophy, working with human resources and leadership, and to see the need and also the human history, which I described earlier, and to see the breaking point of where we are today and the potential of the beautiful technology we have, but also the lack of the fundaments that could support humans and humanity forward, which is really the core of our rights and responsibilities. It's about life here and now. I personally experienced grief. My mother died in 2015, experienced extreme fear. My ex-husband was stalking me in our divorce. And but also the freedom and insights of life and how life is evolving, and to see other aspects of life. I've done over the years, I've done over 160 days of meditation. So it's both reading and growing up in a society where we have had 200 years of peace, but also seeing myself and my own lessons, and humanity as a whole, and the my love really for people, seeing people, and in all different situations.
Wow. Uh, Gosh, wow. That's a story, and I'm sure there's another book in there as well somehow. Maria, I realize I've taken up a lot of your time, and as I said, I welcome comments, questions from people watching and listening at the moment, because I think you have a wealth of experience to offer to us. If you've got questions about, how do you apply some of this in your business, if you've got questions about how you apply some of this in your own personal life, there are some resources that we'll point you to. And Maria's just an open person. I know that she will love to engage and talk with you. But there must be one question at the moment, Maria, you're thinking, he hasn't asked me the one truly killer question, and he's going to do it any minute now. Well, I admit I never ever know what the killer question is. So therefore, I ask you, what is the question that I should have asked you? And please, once you've explained the question, you need to answer it for us, because
Yeah.
you're the expert. So what is that killer question, the final question that I really should have asked and I haven't yet?
Thank you. My core value is dignity. And so the question
That's
would be,
lovely.
so what is dignity?
What is dignity? What a great question.
Yeah. And dignity for me is when you have the crown on your head. You are the king, you are the queen in your life, and you have the crown on, and you treat yourself with dignity and grace, but also to see others as their king and their queen in their life. Uh, I worked with dignity in while helping my friend in her funeral business and casketing 3,000 people. seeing all religions, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, and secular sermons, so all the major religions, and also attending 1,500 funerals, and with dignity to see and to acknowledge that we have both rights and responsibility for all our emotions, and to be who we are in that moment in grief, but also the potential of broadening perspectives uh, for ourselves and one another. So
And
dignity.
so how do you see, because I often spend a lot of my time thinking about people who have very little self-worth. They don't have they don't have enough of an understanding of how they fit into the world. That, how do I describe this? Self-worth for me is being able to walk down the street and not necessarily feeling as though you own the street, because I don't think that's the right thing, but you don't care who owns the street. You walk down the street not worrying about anything else around you. Do you see that as a form of dignity? Do you see dignity as related to that in some way?
Yeah. And that's, for me, dignity and integrity is
Okay.
like a brother and sister. But yeah, dignity, if you feel like you own the streets, it's I think that's a good way to express it. But you don't own the street at the expense of others.
No.
It's to hold that, to imagine like you're in a, a, a protective bubble, or an integrity bubble, and with mutual respect. And you have, Stuart, you have that crown on your head, and you are the pride, and but not the oppression.
So if
So,
I can summarize it, you
yeah.
walk down the street, but you don't care who owns the street. As far as you're concerned, you have the right, you have the responsibility to act in a way which is with compassion, but you walk down the street because that's where you need to be, and you just know that's where you need to be.
Yeah.
And I think with that, Maria, I have to thank you for such a fascinating discussion. For those of you watching and listening, Maria is a fantastic person to follow on LinkedIn and on her various social medias. There will be links to where you can find out more about Maria in show notes. And I would ask you at this stage, if you want to be able to get a simple email from me, which just allows you to know who's going to come up on these, and spend some time watching, listening, catching up with some of these brilliant interviews. And I love some of the people that come on this and talk to us about these fascinating subjects. If you go to www.systemise, that's systemise.me/subscribe. There's a simple form. It asks for just two things: your first name, your email address. That's all it needs. And you will get an email from me which says who's coming up on these podcasts, how you can get involved, how you can ask questions, or where you can get and speak to some of these fabulous people that are on. Maria, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love it if you're listening, follow this podcast, but follow Maria. She is a fascinating and brilliant speaker with a wonderful idea, and you'll get notes on where you can get the more information about what Maria says and does in the show notes. Maria, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. We really do appreciate you spending a few minutes out of your, I know, very busy day.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much.